my kids gave me a jar, I don't know, about 10 inches wide and 10 inches tall, and it was filled up with colored paper. So they each took 20 pieces of paper and they wrote down what they loved about me. And that was my gift. Some more really deep stuff that just really are like, all right, I've done okay. Yeah, I still got a lot of flaws and a lot of weaknesses, but it was really reassuring and confirming that, it's been a good life so far.
Yeah. Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. Today, you are in for an absolute treat. We got Steve Bruszer in the house with us. Got to meet Steve a few years ago at a Texo board retreat. He came onto the Texo board, very curious, asking good questions, and just observing him over the years, everything he says adds value. And so you're in for a treat this next hour and a half or so. We're going to break down 40 years of career and more so with life. And read the prep sheet that you filled out last week and read it last night. And ever so often, people will give like full descriptions of each bullet point. And I read yours like a book. And I was like, that was an awesome read. There's so many cool things in it. And so we get a crystal ball of where this conversation's about to go, and it's going to be awesome. So Steve, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not sure how much value I'll bring, but I'll try.
That's what people say before they bring the hammer.
Yeah, right? That's right. It's a humble answer.
Yeah. So Kev gave a great intro, but I think the way we usually start off is like, what's your elevator pitch? Let's let you tell us who's Steve Bruszer.
I think first off, I'm a believer, Christian, husband to Teresa, 2 sons, John and Joe, president at Spring Valley Construction, been there coming up on 27 years. Been in Dallas-Fort Worth most of my life now. Very honest, hardworking, typical Midwesterner from Chicago. Pretty much it. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple.
I can hear you say you've been in Dallas for a long time, but as you're saying it, I can sort of hear a twinge of the accent still. It hasn't completely left you.
No, everybody pretty much knows the Midwestern accent, and I have not lost it. And every once in a while, I'll slip with a y'all or something like that, but not very often. So sometimes I use guys too, though.
Was it me and you had a use guys conversation the other day?
I moved here from Chicago in 2010, and I was not just you guys, I was use guys.
Yeah. Use guys, Debodias, all that good stuff. Yeah.
The what?
Debodias.
Huh?
Both of you.
Debodias.
Yeah,
I couldn't even hear it. I was like, what are Debodabas? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's every once in a while it goes back to, especially when I go back to Chicago with my friends, it's
Say it again?
Debodias.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to take that now. I'm using it. It's mine.
Use it at your next trial or something like that. Just say that.
The jury will be like, what? Yeah, Debodias.
Yeah.
My wife, she knew I went back to Chicago several weeks ago, and as soon as I got home, she knew I was hanging out with Chicago contractors because the accent came back instantly.
Uh-huh. It does.
It does.
Same. I mean, I'm from Southeast Texas. When I come, same.
You just come back with a banjo and overalls?
No, that's not Southeast Texas, but fair. Takes a minute to shake it off.
That's all right.
All right, tell us a story, Steve.
Which story?
Oh, anyone, man. We normally like to start with a grow-up story. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in, South Side Chicago. As far as southeast as you can go without being in Indiana, about a mile away from Indiana border, a mile away from the lake. Went to Chicago public schools from K through 12. Lived in a 3-flat apartment, about 1,000 square foot was the mid-level, and my grandparents lived below us. They had an older couple above us, had a concrete backyard, garage, alley, small patch of grass in front. Walked to school every day, came home for lunch every day. My mom had lunch for us. She was a stay-at-home mom. Dad was a carpenter, union carpenter, superintendent. Pretty family traditional. All of my buddies grew up within 4 blocks of me. We all went to the same school system. And I have a younger sister, who my dad worked for a company called Berglund Construction. My sister is 2 years younger than me, and she's been there for 38 years.
Oh, wow.
And she handles all their payroll for the company now. When I went back to Chicago, I went to work for Berglund for 4 years. She they have 5 offices in 6 different states, and she does in the union. So she does all the union benefits for the payroll, and she's wanting to retire, but they won't let her retire. And she's a hardworking employee, loyal as can be. And I think that comes from my mom and my dad. My dad was hardworking. He had the neatest penmanship. He wrote left-handed and wrote upside down somehow, and his letters were perfect. He was a draftsman and perfectionist, very creative with his hands. And he just was a ex-Marine. Mom stayed at home, took care of everything for us. It was just a really hardworking, blue-collar neighborhood. A lot of ethnic, Polish, Irish, Yugoslavian, Croatian, German. All my buddies' names. I told it's like Mike Bertok and Ken Bruno and Mark Puker and Zeke Zupan, and just Bruszer fit in perfect with all those names. So had some Vuka Bradoviches and Raspopoviches, and just really cool ethnic neighborhood. The high school was like 400 people and 400 in the senior class, and kind of just played hard and worked hard.
Go ahead, Ken.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, no, I got a lot.
I want to go to one specific, and then Stewie's going to launch.
Yeah.
But how you described the South Side of Chicago, like I felt it. Like my grandma, ourselves, Burbank, Oak Lawn. My grandma was in Chicago off Pulaski and whatever number, 3 flats. Yeah. And there's usually numerous families. And just a concrete backyard, detached garage that attaches to the alley. And I remember my great-grandma in her house off Pulaski was right across from her school, and she had like one of the first motor vehicles, like the Model T or something like that in that garage. I have no idea where it is now, but it's these gridded blocks, man, super tight. Your wingspan could reach in between these 2 houses in these 3 flats. And typically there was, from my side, Polish and Italian families that live there, all from immigrants and immigration. And it brought me back.
Yeah.
Just
so,
hearing that.
Everything's like city block. So you have the grocery store was on the corner. There may be a liquor store on the other corner. We were on a CTA bus route. So, we didn't have central air. So we'd have a through-wall unit for air conditioning. So we'd sleep in our bedrooms, and I'd have, my window open. So you're hearing the CTA bus go by every day, every night. And, it's just this. And it was surrounded by 3 steel mills. So it was Republic, LTV, and Wisconsin Steel, all within 2 miles of us. So it's amazing that I'm still alive, that I don't have any kind of pollution or lung cancer. My dad also smoked, which is what ultimately, killed him. But it was just industrial. It was blue collar. It was awesome. It was really a great childhood.
Okay, I got all the questions. Most of our listeners are in Dallas, and housing in Dallas is different. And I will admit, I have no idea what a 3-flat apartment is. Explain this to me a little better.
So it's just one building. The basement it's like a half basement. So you have a window down below, and then you just have another picture window and another picture window. It's just, I probably got a picture of it on my phone I can show you, but and there was like 3 or 4 of them in a row. And then it went from there to bungalows. And then on the corner was a grocery store. And then you may go down another block and have more bungalows. And then you have another 3-flat. And
okay, so 3 levels. 3 levels. They're not
3 separate apartments.
They're connected
with stairs
on the
outside. There's stairs on the inside on both the front and the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're talking about someone lived above you and below you, it was
a tenant, and then my grandparents. So every night, the really great thing about it, my grandfather was a captain for a tugboat for fire department. And every night growing up, my sister and I would go down the stairs to kiss them goodnight, say goodnight. And then we go back upstairs and go to bed. Well, my grandfather had a tradition. He would sit at the kitchen table, which as soon as you come down the stairs, you go into the kitchen, then you got to go to the living room. My grandma would be in the living room watching TV. Grandpa would be sitting at the table reading a newspaper, the Sun Times, and he'd be eating a bowl of ice cream. And we would try to sneak down the stairs because if he heard us, he would get behind a wall, and as soon as he walked by, he'd scare us. And he'd catch us and he'd kiss us with those cold lips. It's a memory I still have. So, but we would always like try to run by, and then he'd try to catch us. And if one got by, the other one would go, and then we go say grandma. It's just one of those memories that was just really cool. It's just,
isn't it funny how those moments are just etched in there? Cause like I don't have that memory, but I know what it feels like. Cause you can almost smell it.
Yeah.
Not to be weird about it. But.
No, it was, I can smell the boiler room was right next to where they lived. They had a little mockingbird that would make noises and mock my grandma, and you can hear it. And the noises, when it snowed, we had street lights that were like a yellowish color. And to see the snow outside, you'd have to look in the street light to see it falling.
Yeah.
And just that whole, and I can remember walking down the streets when it was snowing and going to my buddy's house. What we used to do was called skitching. Have you ever heard of skitching?
Oh,
Kevin has.
Yeah, of course.
I have no idea what skitching is.
He's bringing me back.
Yeah.
So
I love this so much.
The street we were on was a busier street 'cause it had the CTA bus stop. But if you go on the side streets, which are very narrow, probably, a little bit wider than this room, and the snowplows would very rarely go through the side streets because there's cars parked on the side. So the snow would get packed down by everybody driving on it. So what you would do is you'd get behind a car right at a stop sign. A car would come with a stop sign, and then you would sneak out, grab onto the bumper and squat, and then the car would go, and you'd be hanging on the car for a block or until they find out you're on there and they put the brakes on. So, we'd be skitching or throwing snowballs at cars and buses and just stupid stuff like that.
Were you skitching too?
Yes. And hiding behind brick walls, throwing snowballs at oncoming traffic. Same exact as Bruszer.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And everybody most people know, the school that, when kids go to school today, it's a lot different. My mom and dad may have gone to a couple of my games, baseball, stuff like that. They didn't attend everything. It's so different these days.
Yeah.
Now, if you miss something, you're a bad parent or something like that. And it's just so kids were pretty much, you ride your bike to school, you ride your bike wherever you go, you do a lot of stupid stuff, and you have great memories from it.
We had this conversation at the house the other day. Ashley and I were talking about how when we were kids, like it didn't feel like the world revolved around me. I was an only child, so it did a little bit, but not really, but when my parents were kids, it did not revolve around them at all. My parents were in their mid-70s. Like they were, what was it? See but not heard, or that's the whole, and there's definitely been a shift to like placating and babying and coddling children. In fact, this morning, Ashley's out of town with Stella on a field trip, and my oldest, it turned 16 around Christmas, and today I was just like, man, you're on your own. I'm going to work. Get yourself to school. If you have any troubles, call me. Let me know. And I left, and I kind of felt guilty. I was like, well, I didn't make him breakfast. And I was like, no, he's 16 years old. Figure it out, man. I think we just all did a lot more figuring it out.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And a lot more skitching, apparently.
Oh, yeah. And so you have in here, there's so many parallels, that you got hard work from your dad and love for your mom.
Yeah.
Did you realize, you probably realized the dad thing quickly. Mm-hmm. Did you realize the mom thing too, that you got love from her?
I think my dad passed in 2012, which that's another whole story about my going to Berglund and coming back home. My mom's still alive. She's 88 years old. She lives by herself in a ranch house in Indiana where my sister is probably 2 miles away from her. My sister carries the load. And so does my brother-in-law and my nieces and their husbands carry the load of taking care of mom, shoveling her snow and anything she has wrong at the house. But the older she gets, the more I understand the love,
Yeah.
and it's not anything that's the hugs and the kisses. It gets harder because every time I leave, those times are getting a little shorter. But it's just what she's done for the family, what she's done for me to get to where I am. Dad was a tough father. And I probably am very tough on my kids because of that. Expectations were high. I read your book. You sent me your book and I read it. And I don't know if it was in the introduction or the first chapter about your partying days blew me away. I was like, holy crap. I've never done a drug in my life. I've never smoked pot, never did anything at all. And it's because my dad would kill me. I mean, really, seriously, the belt was alive and well at our house. And if I got off track, he would come down on me. And it was tough growing up under that, but it made me where I'm at today.
Heck yeah.
And my mom was always there. The worst thing that happens is you come home and your mom knows you did something wrong and, oh crap. So my dad would get off work at 3:30. He'd go to Mylon's Pub, which is a little bar that's like 108th Street. We were on 112th. He'd go and hang out for a couple hours and come home. 6 o'clock was dinner every night. And if there was something wrong, if mom was going to tell what was going on, that was not a good time. 6 o'clock was either a good time or a bad time. And it was he was the law. Mm-hmm. And mom was there to help us and protect us and support us. And to this day, that's what she does. She's taken care of me my entire life. So
what I'm going to ask the digging question. You can tell me it's none of my business and you're not going to answer it. Some people have that experience. They look back on it with resentment and frustration with dad, right? Some of them look back on it like, I'm thankful but for that, I wouldn't be who I am. When you have the opportunity, and you probably did when he passed in 2012, to look back through that, where's your mindset on it? Thankful, frustrated, happy?
I think it's, now that it's 12 years away, it goes both ways, Stuart.
Yeah.
There's good and bad. There's good because it taught me to be who I am, to stand up for my beliefs. The bad was, there's, drinking and alcohol and stuff like that. And, stuff that really isn't good. So it's helped me as I get older. And what I do is to moderate and not do things that aren't right. It also makes me realize about it's a team, it's a husband and a wife that gets you through it. We'll talk more about my bride later on or whenever, but she's my governor. She helps me see things the right way. She's very convicted in her beliefs when sometimes I tend to stray about, that's not that big of a deal. She's convicted and it helps me stay on path and stay on line. So my dad was a demanding father, great example of how to work hard and do the things the right way. And I think back on it in a good light. Yeah. Not a bad light.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and then how much of that colors who you are and how you parent through it. I feel like as I've grown up a little bit, not that I'm always grown up, but as I've grown up a little bit, I've realized how much those experiences color who you are and what you do. And sometimes you stay the course, and sometimes I say pendulum parent or whatever, you pendulum the other way because that was awful and there's no right answer and there's no easy button for it. It's just part of everybody's story, man.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Everybody has parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the part of the story, another parallel is the whole college, how we discovered college, which when I tell the almost exact same story, I tell, this isn't recommended. This is just part of my story. So
it's so different than what people do today.
I know.
I mean, the school visits and where you're taking your kids to for school visits has turned into mini vacations these days.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was weird. I've got 4 buddies we all went to grade school together and we're all still together. We're all still friends now. And we just celebrated our 60th birthdays last July together, which is really cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Then we got together again here in September went to an SMU game. They came and visited, but all of us went to grammar school together. And then a couple of them went to Mount Carmel High School, which is a boys' school, a big prep school. And then either the ones that didn't have the money or just didn't want to go to Catholic school decided to went to Washington. Well, Mike, my best friend, throughout high school and college, went to Mount Carmel, but we all stayed in contact. Even though we went to Washington, we'd get off school and we'd still screw around. He was going to Bradley, and I hadn't even given it a thought. Now, I was really good in academics in high school, but I worked hard at it. I mean, I studied a lot, probably because my dad would have an issue if I didn't.
Yeah.
So
You would have an issue if you didn't.
So I graduated high in the class and Dad had a heart attack when I was a senior in high school. I think we may have gotten a grant or two, but Bradley was at that time was a private school. It was more expensive than, Illinois State or U of I probably. I don't know if it was hard to get into, but they accepted my application. I sent one application. That's where it was sent to. They accepted. I didn't show up on the campus until orientation. The next 2 days later, we were starting school. Well, probably 3 days, because then we went through rush and did the fraternity thing, which, I can't believe my mom and dad even allowed me to do that, because what I know today, my kids didn't go through fraternities. Some good things and bad things about fraternities. It's another whole podcast probably, but
Yeah.
But I went to Bradley, Mike went to Bradley, we hung out, we roomed together. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I said, I'll be an engineer. It sounded fun. It sucked. I mean, the first semester was, I'm used to A's and I'm getting a 2.0 GPA, and I dropped calculus and had something called some electrical matrix crap. I still don't know binary numbers. I'm like, what the hell is all this about? So I said, hey, this isn't for me. In the fraternity, there were some guys that were in construction, a guy named Jim Allen, who's one of my mentors. He has his own construction business in Illinois called George Allen Construction, which he is in the process of selling or doing some kind of getting out of it. He's older than I am a little bit. He said he was in construction. I said, well, that sounds great. So I went into construction, and after that, it was all A's and B's and did really well. And so that was my college experiences. A lot of fraternity, a lot of partying. I worked busboy during the weekend, so I stayed kind of out of trouble. But a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, a lot of laughs and fun, and got a good education.
I'm gonna pull back through your some of the notes you made about Mike. He wrote a book about you guys growing up.
Yeah. And
say more about that.
So he was in the newspaper business in small town. He lived in Oswego, and then he ran he was an editor in Oswego, or it may have been a neighboring town, Plainfield or something like that. And then obviously the newspaper business just started dying. And he did some online stuff, did some things here and there, and he's pretty much retired now. He met his wife Lori at Bradley. They're married still. And I was his best man, and we just saw them probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he decided to write a book. So he wrote a book called Breaking the Chains, and it's set in the southeast side of Chicago. It's a fiction book. He says it's not, the characters are all made up, but you can read the book and I know exactly who everybody is, because he does a perfect job of the personalities of everybody. And it came out on Amazon, I think about a month ago. And, I bought like 5 copies, and all my buddies bought copies. He let us all, the 4 of us, read his draft and gave him comments on the draft. And yeah, it's pretty cool. We're excited for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you read it, you're like, that character's me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, it's I know that. But I took it to, I read the draft. So I took it, we went to Colorado, this weekend, visited my oldest son and my daughter-in-law. And I took it and read it up there on the plane. That's usually when I do my reading, is on the plane or something like that.
Yeah.
And, my wife is giving me Kleenex because I started crying in one part of the story. And I'm like, this is so great. And I'm sitting there laughing out loud at some of the stories. And it just brought back great memories. And it kind of prepped me for what we're doing here, because it just brings back all those great memories. But he's a brilliant writer, very creative. He's an only child, and he's lived like 2 blocks away from me. So it's been great.
What's the part of that story, and you're reading it, that got you in the feels?
So, the main character is,
There's a guy named Beeve Struzzer.
No. I'm
thought that
trying to
was
remember what the name is, but he befriended a girl. He was in high school, and he went into a class, middle school class, and it was about helping underprivileged or handicapped children.
Yeah.
And he got paired with a girl named Anne Marie. And he's a football player. So the first thing he started doing was, hey, I'm just here to help, try to educate these retards and stuff like that. Well, her brother had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
So he found out about that, and he felt like an idiot. Well, he got to really become friends with Charlie, who was her brother. Well, Charlie got beat up at a dime store by some kids. So the character chased down the kids and beat the crap out of them. And then Anne-Marie found out, and it was just really cool. The whole family loved him. I mean, it was like one of those things. So he protected his girlfriend's brother, who had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there reading, he writes so well. I'm like, this is just, it's awesome. I felt great after I cried a little bit, but it was good.
Yeah.
People with that special gift it is a special gift to be able to, you're sitting there reading and you feel like you're in the middle of it. And yeah, it's a special gift. All right, where we go from there?
Construction keeps pulling you back. I don't know if you were trying to run from it and it's just magnetized to you, but eventually you graduate and...
Yeah, graduate. So Spa Glass, which is a great company, came to Bradley for some odd reason. I mean, Bradley has a good construction program. And we interviewed, we signed up for interviews, and Spa Glass, it's a glass company. Well, find out in the interview, it's not a glass company.
Yeah.
And then my Steve Bruszer and I, who are both in the same fraternity, we've known each other now since we were 18 years old. He grew up in South Holland, so just south of where I grew up. Didn't meet him until college, freshman year. We both got offers to go to Spa Glass in Texas. $24,000 a year. We thought we were rich. And we found out, I think, the Friday we were leaving to drive down to spring break. So it was a good spring break.
Yeah.
So we both accepted. He drove his car. I drove my car. Went to Houston for 2 weeks for orientation. Then they shipped us both up to Dallas. And we were in Dallas for 8.5 years. And Spa Glass we worked our way from assistant project manager to quality control manager. Spa Glass got bought out by a French company called SAE. So I spent some time actually in Bethesda, Maryland, some stuff like that. They wanted us to move to San Antonio because they were closing their Dallas office. And I was going through a really tough time. I was going through a divorce. I was married for 4 years, trying to save that marriage. It was a girl that I knew from Bradley, and it just wasn't working, but I also didn't want to just pick up and leave and go to San Antonio. So I knew Tom French was also at Bradley. I was his pledged father in our fraternity. He actually worked for Spring Valley, and he got me an interview with Mike Gray, and like 3 months later they hired me. I quit. Pissed Spa Glass off quite a bit. And 3 months later, I brought Steve Bruszer over to Spring Valley. And Steve and I still are at Spring Valley Construction together. So we've known each other now for 42 years almost. It's nuts that he and I have been together. We lived together for the first 6 months. He's a great, loyal friend, somebody I love dearly. But, I went to a function, went to a conference in San Antonio. It was for HEB stores, and they bring all their general contractors together, and Spa Glass was there. And the president of Spa, or I don't know if he's a president or what he is now, but a guy named Mike Emmons was at the meeting, and he's now present. He was in our orientation back in 1985.
Oh man.
So I got to go up to him, and he remembered me. He said he did. I don't know if he did or not, but I congratulated him. And so that was Spall Glass story, and then came to Spring Valley.
What's the Kevin loves it. Kevin loves it when I do this, but when did you come to leave Spall Glass and go to Spring Valley? Timeline for us.
93.
Okay.
Yeah. So 85, I started at Spall Glass, left in 93. And then I stayed at Spring Valley until 2008. So in our 15 and a half years, worked my way, when I hired on at Spring Valley, I had a mullet, full-headed hair, believe it or not. I was 29 years old. I thought I was the greatest thing ever. It's embarrassing, somewhat embarrassing.
Which part? The mullet, right?
No, not the mullet. I dig the mullet. I wish I could have a mullet now.
It's back.
They are back full throttle.
They're back. Yeah.
So, I worked hard. I worked my way up I actually got hired on as a project manager there, worked my way up to senior project manager to VP of operations in like 2005. And then, 2008, there was talks that a couple of us were going to be able to be in line for ownership at Spring Valley. There was kind of a little, there was Jim Archer, who is the patriarch of the company, is now 78. Unbelievable man, very generous. And then Mike Gray was the president of Spring Valley. And then Danny Copeland were the three owners. Danny Copeland's still my partner, awesome man also, godly man. And then Mike Gray was running the operations, and I had an allegiance to Mike because he was my ops guy. And then, I was still going home every once in a while to visit my mom and dad. And, just per chance went to lunch with my sister in South Chicago, and her boss is the CFO. And he's from Bradley also. He's a year younger than I am. And we started visiting, and he goes, "Hey, we got an opening to run our Illinois division downtown." I'm like, "Well, that's great. Good luck." And he was persistent. He was persistent.
Yeah, that's a really important hire. That's
right. Don't mess it up. So he was persistent. And over the next 3 months, I just started talking to my wife, who was from Texas. I think my John was in 5th grade, and Joe he's 6 years younger, so he was probably getting ready to go to kindergarten. And we just started talking a little bit about it. Found out there wasn't any opportunity to be any equity ownership of Spring Valley, and Dad had a stroke, just wasn't doing great. So we decided to pick up everything and just move, and accepted the job. It was like 3 months after that. So left, late 2008. Then the recession hit, and, things were tough in Chicago, but things were also tough at Spring Valley when I left. So I stayed in contact with a lot of my friends at Spring Valley, and, they went from, 90 some employees down to 35 employees. It got really scary. A lot of my buddies were leaving, and it just was really difficult. So, but I stayed in touch with everybody because we'd still come back for weddings and, things like that. And Teresa's family was still here. So it was really weird. It was like you're watching a company go through something, and you're looking at it from afar, and you're trying not to overanalyze it because you're going through the same thing in Chicago. I'm trying to learn a whole new city, subs, owners, architects, trying to figure all that, trying to figure out a new boss, co-workers they had multiple divisions. So you're trying to figure all that out. And then you talk to people that were going through a bunch of hard times here in Dallas, and it was difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Let me take you back to the decision to leave.
Yeah.
And this actually is asking for a friend. I have a really good friend who has been offered a job to leave. He's like, to leave Dallas. He's similarly situated as that moment in time for you guys. And I know it's picking up kids. It sounds like your wife's rooted here. She's ripping up roots to go, all that stuff. So tell me about the process of making that decision. Really, I'm trying to pick at some advice there for a buddy, to be honest.
Well, ultimately, it was selfish. I mean, I wanted to go back to see my mom and dad. I wanted my boys to know their grandmother and grandfather, and my sister and my brother-in-law, and I had 2 nieces that were a little older than John. Really wanted to be, we went back thinking it was our forever thing.
Yeah.
We didn't go back to say, well, let's just go for a couple years. We went back forever. And So it was selfish for family reasons, but I also saw that it was an opportunity for my work. Again, we haven't talked about my wife yet, but she gave up everything, sacrificed her. She was a Mary Kay sales director. She put everything on hold for our kids. Our kids uprooted and left everything that they know. It was really difficult. But then we got there, found a beautiful house, about a mile and a half from my mom and dad, and family. Everything was great. But the more I got into my job, I love my job. I love the people I was working with. I just didn't, the owner and I have different philosophies on how to lead people.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And his way is the highway. And I had an issue with that.
Yeah.
But I dealt with it for 4 years because Dad was alive and we were enjoying what we were doing there as a family. So back to your question, it was selfish. But now coming back to Spring Valley in 12, there's no way I would have been prepared to do what I'm doing now if I hadn't gone through that 4 years of learning, of going out on a limb and not knowing anybody and trying to make it and, doing what I needed to do to make it. I mean, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad our kids did it. My boys, I think, are both better off for it. My wife really had a hard time with it because the people in Chicago aren't as nice as the people in Texas.
Yeah. No, they're not.
And
no, we are not.
And she,
these guys are not.
Nah.
But she did an amazing job. I mean, she ended up being volunteer of the year at the middle school, and she's really good at people. And she adapted. She totally sacrificed everything for us, though.
Yeah.
And it was really great when we had to make the decision to come back. We had a little family meeting, and they're all like, "Let's go," which was really, really difficult to do.
Yeah, you eliminated woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, you had family roots there. So
yeah, I don't ever have to sit there and say, "I wish I would have done that."
No,
I did it. Now, you talk about the excitement to come back to Spring Valley and be president and be owner of the company, and to leave my mom and my sister was a horrible, horrible, very, very difficult decision because I love them both dearly. And I knew that the burden of taking care of Mom was going to be on my sister. And that was hard. And she still does it. And she does an amazing job at it. But it was, we try to make a point to go back 4 or 5 times a year and to see them. It's still difficult though. But the fruits at Spring Valley have been wonderful for us to afford us to be able to go back as much as we want. So,
let's drop a pin there because there'll be a part of that Spring Valley story that I want to pick up and tell. But you're right, we haven't spoken much about your wife. Tell us about your wife.
Wow. So I met Teresa about the same time I started at Spring Valley Construction. So in '93, we had both gone through some divorces. She was living in Houston. She was a Mary Kay sales director, had a unit here in Dallas, so she'd come back. And I had a buddy of mine that I played softball with who I bought 4 tickets to go to Travis Tritt and Trisha Yearwood concert. So this is '93.
Where were they playing?
They were playing at the old Starplex, which is now Dos Equis or something like that. I don't even know what it is.
Isn't it had like 75 different names?
I know, yeah. So I had 4 tickets, and then I had just broke up with the girl that I had been seeing. So I'm like, well, Kevin, you and Katie want to go use these tickets? He goes, well, why don't we'll go find the date. I go, dude, I don't have a date.
I'm fresh out.
So he said,
fresh out.
So he said, well, let me call Katie. And Katie has a friend that's in Houston. She's 5'10", blonde, good looking. So I called her up. We went on a date. Well, she said, I can't go with you until I meet you beforehand. So I took her the night before to dinner. And then we went to a concert and had a great time. And then on and off again, she moved back to Dallas and we got married. She is she's now a real estate broker or an agent, residential. She's the best, most awesome real estate agent. She's the best mom. She is. I found out today or this weekend with John. John's now 25, getting ready to be 26, our oldest son. And we went there we fly in every once in a while just to drop generosity on them. We took them to nice places to dinner and went to Breckenridge. And John, I found out that he had never had alcohol until he was 21 years old.
Wow.
And he went to A&M, graduated with a construction degree, and that's all mom. I mean, that's mom. This is the right thing to do. I'm convicted. This is how we're going to raise you. And John was a difficult raise, and he got through it. He ended up being like the top undergraduate at A&M. One of the proudest moments of my life. We went to the ceremony, the hard hat ceremony, and he gets the award for being the top undergrad. And you're like, crap. Yeah. This kid is freaking phenomenal. That one? This kid is phenomenal. I mean, he's so grown up. He works for Beck now. He interned with Spring Valley. Funny story, we went on Friday, we flew in. Teresa and I have a little Mexican restaurant, so we went and had a couple margaritas, Ubered to his job site, and he gave us a tour of the job site. And we took a group picture of us, and I had Beck gear on. I said, I'm not wearing it. He goes, you got to wear it. So I sent it back to 3 guys at Spring Valley, Kelly and Miller Page, who are brothers, and Ernie Bryant, who's our development manager. You know Ernie.
I love Ernie.
And the Kelly and Miller story, I'd like to come back to that while I was in Chicago. But so Kelly photoshopped it and took the Beck deal and put Spring Valley on there and sent it back to John, dropping hints to come back, to Spring Valley. But she's just great. I mean, she's a great mother. She's a great wife. We love spending time together. I mean, I'm having withdrawals because we were together for 5 days. And it's tough being away from her, but she's brilliant. She's brilliant. She doesn't have a college degree, has a high school degree, went through vocational, had a really rough upbringing. And, her stepdad is awesome. He's my father-in-law, and he is awesome. And as is my mother-in-law, they live in Azle. So we get to see them, once every month or so. So it's good. Yeah, she's a very convicted, smart. I call her the mayor of Sunnyvale. We live in Sunnyvale, and she knows if we'll go to a football game or a basketball game, half of the people in the stands, she's either been a client, they've been her client, coaching staff. She gives back money from every sale to the school district. Yeah, man, I got way, way lucky.
Outkicked your coverage. Isn't that what we say?
Yeah.
Outkicked your coverage. What about those boys?
Well, John is an old soul. We had a great time together here recently. He's 25, going to be 26.
So is he in Denver?
He's in Denver, just south, just in Denver by Wash Park, which is a really cool little area. They've been there since last January.
Okay.
So they'll be there for another year. My daughter-in-law is brilliant, smart as a whip, beautiful. They've met. Fun, this is going to be story time. So
love it. Yeah, that's why we're here.
So our school superintendent at Sunnyvale, his name is Doug Williams, who's a good friend of mine. We have a old man workout group that every 2 days a week for the last 8 years we've been working out. There's 8 of us that get together, go to the school field house and work out on Saturdays and Wednesdays, like tonight. Well, Doug was superintendent of the school system, got me involved in the Sunnyvale Education Foundation, which I was president for 4 years, on the board for 7 years, raised a lot of money for foundations and grants. Well, Doug's niece went to Caddo Mills, and her and John are the same age, and she needed a date for her prom, and she didn't want to take anybody from Caddo, so she asked her uncle Doug, who would he recommend? Well, of course, he recommends John. Mm-hmm. And Caddo Mills and Sunnyvale are rivals. So John says, I ain't going. Well, after some chiding and some rebuking, he ended up going over to her house, had dessert, met her.
All right, I'll go.
They went to prom. It went, and Lauren is very driven, this is how my life's going to go. It's going to be career. Maybe I'll get married. Maybe I'll have kids. And she went to Baylor. He went to A&M. She went to A&M to meet a friend in early September, right after school started, and they've been together ever since. They got married right after college. They did that long distance relationship for 4 years, and They're happy living their life. They're going skiing every other weekend to up in Breckenridge or Keystone. She's a CPA, has a master's degree from Baylor, went through their fellow program. We don't play games with her, board games, because she wins everything. She's like one of the smartest people I know. And it gets very frustrating, me being a little bit competitive. But they're there. They may come back one day. Her parents live here also. We'll see. But he's doing a great job. He's on a 20-story building right now, in charge of all the MEP.
Yeah.
Doing a great job. He's trying to work his way up the Beck system. Likes Denver better than he did Dallas, just because of the size of it. You know, it's more family. And then Joe is 20. He's at SMU. He's a sophomore. He's on the football team. He preferred walk-on, went to Sunnyvale, did really well in all sports. He's an athlete. John's 6'5", Joe's 6'3", so both of my kids are tall. Joe's very athletic, and he's just got into spring football. He's trying to work his way up. It's really difficult these days with scholarships and transfer portals.
Transfer portals killing it.
Yeah. So he got to play in his first game. He redshirted his freshman year, and then he got into 3 games this last year. His first game he got into was against Prairie View. And we were there. My wife and I were there with his roommates, Michael. He's a walk-on punter. His parents were there, and Joe got into the game. It was like 55-0. So Joe got into his first game. The first drive, the 6th play, he was basically just blocking, running some routes. They were on the 23-yard line, and
I'm guessing he plays tight end.
No, he's a receiver.
Okay,
actually, he's a receiver, and he's playing left side. The quarterback rolled out, the cornerback bit. Joe caught a pass on the 5-yard line and stumbled in for a touchdown.
Let's go.
And it was like, holy crap. Yeah. Did we just witness this?
Yes.
This last August, September was, I don't know if you ever think of it. The older you get, you think about the best times of your life. So from August to the end of September last year was the best 60 days of my life. We had my 60th birthday with my buddies growing up. We went to one of my buddies' weddings in Indianapolis. I had my 60th birthday party, which my wife had a 5-day extravaganza. We had people come in for the SMU game. We partied at the house. She catered everything. And then we went to, John and Lauren were in, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law were in for that. And then in, I think early September, we went someplace else. And then the football game happened where he caught the pass. And then we went to the Ryder Cup. I mean, it's like the 60 days of just like Steve Bruszer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I can write a book just on this 60 days.
Yeah.
So
Ryder Cup in Italy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. So Joe's a big golfer. I think he stayed in Dallas just because he wants to use my Dallas Athletic Club membership.
Yes.
So he's there
not a bad decision.
So he's there once a week playing golf. And he's studying hard, trying to be in occupational therapy or physical therapy. Doesn't want to be in construction, which is great. So we get to see him quite often. So that's my 2 boys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said a couple, we kind of spin into the second chapter of the Spring Valley story here in a second, but you said 2 things that really stuck out to me. One of them was like the excitement, the jubilation of seeing the athletic success of your kids.
Yeah.
Like that's something I I would not have anticipated, because I would have thought like my own story, but I see it in yours too, is like, oh, my good old days were good old. No, my good old days are trash compared to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
My entertainment is watching my kids compete.
Yeah.
I watched, John was a basketball player, did really well. And Joe did everything. Joe ran track. He actually took 3rd in the 4x2 at state when he was a junior. And he was, golf and basketball, football. I was one of those parents that was always there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry, but one of the best gifts. So, my kids gave me there's a jar, I don't know, about 10 inches wide and 10 inches tall. And it was filled up with colored paper for my 60th birthday. It was all construction paper folded up. So
if you don't, I might. I know how this is going though.
So they each took 20 pieces of paper and they wrote down what they loved about me. So Joe wrote down 20 things, Lauren wrote down 20 things, and John wrote, and that was my gift. And and that's sitting on my back credenza in my office. And there's no better, and a lot of them, you're always there. You're generous, and you give great hugs. Some of them were really deep stuff that just really are like, all right, I've done okay. Yeah, I still got a lot of flaws and a lot of weaknesses, but it was really reassuring and confirming that, it's been a good life so far.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
best gift ever, to let somebody know how you feel.
Yeah, I believe that. That jar, I can see it, I can feel it, I know it, man.
It's right on the back of my back credenza with photos of the family and, a lot of good stuff.
Before we go forward on Spring Valley, I want to go back to Chicago a little bit.
Sure, love to.
Just time stamping some stuff since you're a time stamper. So he goes there in 08, right? 08?
You're a time stamper.
Right.
07 is when I transitioned to the office for the first time, out of the field, out of college into the office. And I'm in line at the fax machine. For those younger folks that are listening, we had to fax bids, and I would fax at my entry-level position Berglund bids.
Did you really?
On bid day. And the thing is, it'd be like a project, it'd be like 6 contractors it needs to go to. So I have 6 proposals, and you're speed entering the fax number to get it in by 2 p.m. kind of thing, and you got to get all 6 in. And I'm like, I hope I sent Berglund's to the right phone number. I don't know.
And the general contractor is bitching because it's 2:00 and they need to get theirs in by 2:00 and they don't have your number yet.
That's right. It was a wild ride at that fax machine. And I checked in with my old man because my old man is still a union caulker. He actually just turned in his retirement papers to the hall this week.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So big kudos to my old man.
Yeah.
But he's done several Berglund jobs.
Yeah. They do a lot of restoration, a lot of old building restoration. One story I've got is when I first got there, this was, I think, like October, they landed a project that was called the Skywalk, or it was called the Ledge. And it was on the Willis Tower, and it was a 6-month duration. And the contract value wasn't crazy. It was like $3 million. But it was on the 103rd floor of the Willis Tower, which is the observation deck. And what the contract was to go up there, modify the structure, modify the curtain wall to accept 3 glass boxes that would mechanically go out beyond the building 5 feet. So it's all glass floor, glass walls, glass ceiling. And it was a 6-month project. Andre Pintaro was my project manager. And I got some great stories from my project managers. Anthony Rosignolo stays touching me. Andre Pintaro stays in touch with me. Just some of those relationships. But one day we were going out to, I was like the VP of operations, but I was also the project exec. So I'd go out to the job, and it's probably a mile walk. So I'd get to, our office was at Michigan and Wacker, and I'd walk to the Willis Tower, and the meetings would be like at 8:00. I'd get there like 7:30. Which is cool. So you're going up to the observation deck. The whole thing's empty. And you go up there and you're looking out. If you look to the east, you're looking out right at the lake, and you're seeing how beautiful the lake is. You're looking how beautiful this, you look a little bit to the north, you're seeing the city, downtown. Well, it's glorious. You're sitting there saying, man, God, am I alive? This is gorgeous. You're watching the sun come up and being up on top of the deck. But there was one time when I went out for a meeting, the glass contractor was modifying. They were on swing stages from the top of the roof. So we're on the 103rd story. I think it was like 1,300 feet up. And these glazers are outside modifying the curtain wall because they got to get the box to go out. And there were actually clouds rolling into the space. And I'm sitting there like, if you have a death wish, you can jump out and be gone. But you're sitting there and you're watching clouds roll in, and you're sitting there like, nobody's going to believe this. It's a story that I'll never forget. I'm just looking out there. You look out here, the sun's rising. You see these clouds rolling into the space, and you're building something that now is a big attraction for Chicago for people to go out there and walk on the sky ledge.
So the glass is out. The wall is open because they're fixing it. So when you say the clouds roll through the space, you mean literally they pass through the
opening
open deck
into the room. And the box moves about 10 feet. So it's 5 foot out, and then it can roll into flat, so allow window washers, and then it will actually roll in 5 foot for maintenance. So you got tracks, steel beam, I-beams on the floor, on the ceiling, and motors, and you got, I think their IT or their communication center was right below us on the 102nd floor. So and then trying to get the glass is all 1.5 inches thick. It was so big and heavy, it'd have to ride on top of the elevator because it couldn't fit in the elevator cab. So all the glass was transported up into the space at nighttime. It was just a logistics nightmare.
Do you know
It's
if
amazing.
your memory's like a steel trap?
I don't know about that.
Do you remember the first 2 floors where you go through the line to get up?
Yeah.
Were you part of that too?
No.
Okay.
No.
'Cause I did that. I was the PM estimator
Yeah.
on the glass down below that got you before
Really?
you got to the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know MTH?
Oh yeah.
That was the sub. The guy, I can't remember, Ludwig was the guy's, Ludwig Cerny. But yeah, he was great. And they did an unbelievable job. It was a great experience.
Yeah. My VP of Ops worked there.
Yeah.
I don't know during that. Probably not. He's a little younger. But yeah, so many small world stories. The tough thing about Sears Tower, Willis Tower, because it's such a massive building, so many occupants, you had to get your materials in, and your window was from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And the hallways were short and narrow, and you had to get these big glass units there we had to build a tilt table that brought it in diagonally, every single piece one at a time. You were one of hundreds of people lining up. So you had to get in line for this dock, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You were getting up at 1 a.m. just to show up. It was tough sledding, man.
It is tough sledding. All of that.
Yeah, pretty cool. Got to work in the Museum of Science Industry for several jobs, which was really cool. It was built back for the one of the world fairs back, I think it was in the late 1800s, or in a building that's 125 years old. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
And that's, again, you're walking through that space and it's empty usually because it's early morning and you're just in the museum all by yourself. It's just like, man, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of good memories from being in Chicago.
Okay, so we are ping-ponging this all over the place.
Yeah, I know.
Per usual. That's okay. But I'm going to hard stop pull us forward to your return to Spring Valley.
Okay.
That's the moment in time we sort of stopped telling chronology, so let's take it back there. You guys made the decision we're going home.
Yep, going home. Spring Valley was just starting to come out of the recession. Things were still slow. Revenue wasn't great. When I came back, there were some people there that left when I came back, which is not unusual. Some had been new hires, some had been old people that thought they were going to get some kind of position. So there was a little bit of, turnover. I brought back a couple of people that had left while I was gone. Steve Bruszer was one of them. He's a senior project manager who I'd known since I've been 18. He left while I was gone. And then Richard Kavnar, who's our VP of pre-construction, brought him back. He's probably the best hire that we brought back. Hopefully you'll get to meet him in our Bible study. He's brilliant. He's retiring in the end of July, and he's a great friend, one of the smartest people I know. So we had to do some rebuilding. We had to go back out there and do some business development. We had a company life coach, I guess, that I think a lot of contractors in town have had, a guy named Adam Van Dale, who helped put together our business philosophy of how we're going to operate, our core values and our brand promise, helped us with business development and marketing. And, now we've basically almost by tenfold increased our revenue, increased our company employees. We're really big on honesty and transparency and character. So it's, service, value, character, commitment for SVCC are our core values. Our brand promise is an enjoyable experience. So we've had that brand promise forever, and that's really difficult to provide an enjoyable experience during the construction process because most construction processes are long, go for, anywhere from 8 to 24 months, and owners aren't usually very patient. They don't understand all of our issues and problems, so you have to communicate that with them. You have to be honest with them. But it's not just we just don't want to provide an enjoyable experience to our owners. We also want to enjoy working for them. So it's very difficult to try to find the right clients that you work well with. Majority of our work, thankfully, is negotiated. A lot of repeat business. But I tell all of our employees that when they hire, I meet with every new hire and say it's enjoyable experience to our clients and our architects and engineers. That's all upstream. But downstream is subcontractors, because 90% of what we do is sub-related. And if our subs don't enjoy working for us, then we're not going to make it. And the key thing for most subs is cash flow and money. So if we're paying our subs on time, that's 90% of the enjoyable experience. So I carry with me in my briefcase my accounts receivable on our company, and I call, and if we're past 30 days, I'm calling every owner saying, I've earned the money. We've earned the money. Where's my money? So I can pay the subs on time. So it's downstream to subcontractors and suppliers. We also, same thing. We want to enjoy working with subcontractors. So that means you provide the manpower, give us competitive prices, do it safely, quality, all that good stuff. But then horizontally to our employees, we want to make sure that our employees enjoy working for us. We give them a competitive salary. We give them health insurance, life insurance, vision, 401k, but we also expect them in return to work hard and be honest and to treat others the way they want to be treated. So the golden rule. So I'm really big on character. I'm really big on the golden rule. I'm opinionated. So sometimes I can be difficult, but I'm also, another weakness is I get to the point where I'm task oriented. So I'll keep my head down and work on something, and sometimes not recognize greatness and something, or something that's been done well. And that's why you hire good people to be around you to say, hey, knucklehead, wake up. This just happened. And we have a bunch of people like that are good employees that take care of me. So Spring Valley's, back now, it's coming up on another, 12 years again.
Yeah.
So it's a little, and it's not unusual at Spring Valley. We have a lot of people that will leave for one reason, but then come back. And I think that it's a positive, because
totally
grass isn't greener. What they miss is, one, all of our owners are in the same building. If they got an issue, they come talk to us. But we also, I think the golden rule is a lot to it. It's about treating people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, slingshot employee, you would think, well, they left. That's a bad thing. That everybody has a moment where you're like, I'm going to go explore an opportunity. I'm going to go see if the grass is whatever.
Right. There's different reasons.
Yeah.
It could be like mine was to go back to family, but it was also, I didn't see ownership opportunity at Spring Valley. So why continue doing that when I can do the same thing up in Chicago and be with family? So everybody has different reasons, and sometimes, and I'm not really good. There's people listening to this. I'm not very good at accepting people leaving. I love Spring Valley Construction, and I get defensive when people say, well, I'm leaving because of whatever. Well, you're an idiot. That's usually my response, but then I get over it. But so anyways.
Well, there's a sort of a tangent point to that I want to make, that I made a note I want to make, which is if you have a horizontal commitment to your brand promise of providing an enjoyable experience, and what that means is your folks enjoy working for you. Mm-hmm. How are you monitoring that? And I guess, let me ask the question differently, because I'm curious how you're monitoring whether or not you're hitting your brand promise upstream, downstream, and horizontally. How are you doing that?
Well, I think upstream, it's if you're getting negotiated work, if you're getting repeat clients, if you continue getting work with the same people, and that's usually a good point. Our marketing department, Whitney and Natalia, do a great job of getting testimonials, sending out post-project performance updates. Subcontractors is probably a little bit more touchy-feely. I mean, if you have subs that continue giving you prices, it means they want to continue working for you. We have a really good sub base of people. We probably could do a lot better job appreciating that, which is another big thing that I'm big on, making sure that we appreciate our subs. And employees, we do the the yearly employee survey that's run through Intergage for either a Dallas Business Journal Top 100 or a Dallas Morning News. We'll do that. And when we get those results, we'll try to develop a strategic plan to attack 3 of those things, kind of similar to what Texo Board does. Mm-hmm. Come up with what's the top 3 or 4 things that we need to concentrate on for the year. Some of it gets frustrating because, one of the ones we get a lot is we'll get a red mark for, you don't accept new ideas or something like that. You're not open to new ideas. Well, the construction industry is pretty basic. It's blocking and tackling. Everybody does submittals, or everybody does RFIs, or, the platform you do it may work, be different, but everybody builds a building the same way. Usually they manage people, they manage owners, architects, OAC meetings, sub meetings, 3-week schedules, blah, 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 blah. So there's only so many new ideas you can have. Okay, we got Procore, we got a scheduling program, we got open space, we got, all the bells and whistles everybody else has, we have. Yeah. So what are you looking for? I mean, and sometimes when you ask that question, you're like, well, yeah, I guess we do have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's some people, when the question almost asks for a negative response.
Right.
But you just have to take that with a grain of salt and try to figure out what it means. Are we truly we're not, and most construction companies are, especially smaller, mid-sized, family-owned, aren't on the cutting edge of technology. They're slow to react, slow to implement, because everybody's task-oriented, usually driven people. And sometimes you have to hire out and get third-party help to implement things, which I think most construction companies have an issue with.
Yeah.
And you can't usually have that one person on staff unless you're big enough to afford it, overhead-wise.
Well, and also you're not Google. I mean,
right.
I'm just throwing a large tech company on the table here. Like, not suggesting that construction doesn't need to be innovative, but the innovators tend to live in the technology space, and those are easier innovation. Blah 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 blah. Right. Or let me come back to say it the way you said it. Is blocking and tackling at the execution level. What do you want? Robots? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
Yeah. So
yet.
The other thing that in our core values, character is a big thing. And I always tell people that, if you have good character, the other 3 values come with it: service, value, and commitment. If you hire good character people, then you're in a good spot as a company overall. And I always, I've been taught this forever. There's 2 ways I define character. One is, what do you do when you're by yourself? And 2, are you living like you have Jesus chained to you on a 6-foot tether? Okay. If you're doing those 2 things, then you're going to, you may not be doing it, but if you're thinking about it, what should I be looking at this website, or should I be doing something else? Should I be, whatever it is, smoking weed, or should I be reading the Bible? I mean, it's a certain thing. If you think about it, then there's a lot to be said with that. And so I always tell every new employee, we're hiring you because of your character. If your character doesn't work out, then you're not going to work out here. Mm-hmm. This is how we believe, and this is how we live. It's not for everybody, but if that's who you want to be, if you want to try to be better yourself as a person, and I always, when I lay down, I don't think about 85 people either. I think about 400 people. Think about the wives, the husbands, the kids. We've got 400 people to provide a life for and a career for. It's not, and I love our spouses more than I love our employees. I really do. I have a better time with them because I only see them, twice, 3 times a year, and they're not a pain in the butt like the employees are.
Yeah.
So, I think that you have to think big picture sometimes as you're running a company.
Well, sorry, Kevin, I jumped in. Go ahead.
You're good.
It's something I thought I'd never had before that I had when you were saying what you just said, was the idea that I love the spouses more than the employees sometimes. Well, but they also have placed a different level of trust in you than the employees have, because the employee has some control. They're going there and the spouse just is like, you know what? I'm trusting that this is going to do the things for our family that it needs to do. I'm being a little generic, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
that's a gigantic responsibility.
Yes.
And there's very few things that keep me awake. I think if you live honestly, correctly, I can fall asleep pretty regularly. What I worry about is, if we have a situation and we got to make a tough decision someplace, I worry about the family. And that's the hardest part for me, is the people, trying to figure out, how to do sometimes you got to make tough decisions, and that's difficult. So, but it's also rewarding when the company does well and you're able to give, pick up the majority of the healthcare cost, or you're matching, you're adding $250,000 of matching employee to 401k. Those are things that make me feel good about what we do at Spring Valley.
Okay, so go, Kev.
To your character thing, at church a few weeks ago, the pastor said, if you have integrity, nothing else matters. And if you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. And I was like, that's pretty solid. And what you were defining with character is integrity.
Yeah, there's a sign right behind my desk. There's a little, I think, can't remember who bought it for me. It may have been Teresa. Or, there's a little block thing and has a bunch of a word cloud on there. Integrity is the biggest word. So, you're right. It's your word is, as you get older, you tell your kids that the name on your back is what you need to protect. There's nothing more important than the name on your back. That's who you are. That's who people are going to think about me. If you do something wrong, it's affecting our name, not just you. It's affecting all of us. So live like you want to protect your name.
Yeah.
So
working through the prep sheet, I was about to ask a really stupid question because I hadn't read all the way to the bottom, which was going to be like, how much of you have Jesus tethered to you on a 6-foot leash is on the sleeve at Spring Valley, and then you read 2 more bullets down, and we get to Bible study. So tell me about this.
Well, we had a CFO. His name was Jim Ryan, and he was Irish Catholic. He used to walk around the office singing and whistling and whatnot. And he started a little Bible study group, and we'd have 2 or 3 or 4 people attend to it. And to be honest with you, I didn't attend for probably the first couple of years. I'd get there early on. It was every Friday morning at 7:00, and it's been going like this now for 25 years. Jim has since he's gone. He passed away, and there's now anywhere from 7 to 10 people. So 10% of our company attends Bible study every Friday morning from 7 to 8 o'clock. And we pick out we'll go to a life study book of, right now we're doing the Apostles, or we've done a book of James or Hebrews or something. And we just go through the book and spend an hour together. And we pray before, we pray afterwards. And that is open door. Anybody can attend. I get, and you got to be careful because you don't want to wear it too much on your sleeve, because you may offend somebody. But anybody's invited to it. We have a female assistant project manager who started showing up brand new from A&M. We have a young assistant project manager. Almost our entire pre-construction department is in it. That's like 6 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So one of Danny, myself are in it. And it is the best thing about Spring Valley Construction, I think. It frustrates me because you would think if it is so rich, why aren't other people being there? But everybody has their own things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own moment in life. But Jim Ryan started it. To this day, Jim Ryan was a volunteer at Scottish Rite Hospital for kids when he was later in age. When he passed away, we started a teddy bear drive. So every year we collect teddy bears or money for Scottish Rite Hospital. This year we just recently gave $8,000 to Scottish Rite and teddy bears and whatnot for the kids. We've been doing that now probably for, I think, 20 years, the Scottish Rite drive. But the Bible study is awesome. I've invited Kevin. We've had some special guests that we've invited to it. I've asked Kevin. I think Kevin's coming March the 8th, I think, or something like that. And it's just to get to know each other. It's so personal. It's so accountable. It is what wakes me up Friday mornings to get there at 7:00 and just just fellowship.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's a different level of a relationship with your employees. And I get the point of like you don't wear too much on your sleeve because all of a sudden now it feels mandatory.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
But it's not,
it's not that.
It's not, I don't think it's employees, it's friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
yeah, right.
It's kind of before work. We'll chit chat about work, or we'll bust each other up a little bit here and there. We'll make a short joke or a sarcastic joke. But we have some of the smartest biblical scholars. There's two people in that, Richard Kavanaugh and Randy Stevens. They just know the Bible really well. So if you don't know the Bible, you're going to learn something just by 25 years of going there, right?
Yeah.
You're going to figure something out.
It's great to have that guy in your orbit who's like, well, actually, let me help you understand this theologically a little better. And like, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's I think the best thing we do. I really do. It's, and I hope it rubs off. I keep telling we have a little room. It's called the War Room, which from old estimating days.
Yep.
But it can probably fit maybe 12 people, 13, 14 people. I can't wait till we get to where it gets too many people and we have to move into a bigger room.
Yeah. Right.
But, you don't want to, again, if you want to be there, you can be there. If you don't want to be there, don't be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And whatever gets people there, doesn't matter the motive.
Right.
Because there's a few people that do this, and sometimes it's just, I want to be next to Bruszer. I want him to see me.
Yeah.
like that's cool.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, whatever sets the hook.
There's not a lot of people that want to be near me. So I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Wait, Bruzzer's there.
No.
I'm out.
No one said no one ever.
Well, I'm not going to tell a story. Well, Kendall, who is brand new, she's a female from A&M. She was nervous about going because I was there.
Fair.
She doesn't want to, whatever. And I'm like, God, probably 10 times more about the Bible than I do. Just bring it.
Well,
and
being vulnerable around El Jefe,
I guess
that's a scary thing.
So I just went up to her before and I said, look, man, I'm excited about you showing up. It's great. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun thing that we do.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We ping-ponged all over the place.
I know. I told you I got some stories.
I do like a good story.
That Sears Tower thing, that came from Texo's board retreat.
Right.
Year one of your board retreat. So like the segue to open up the board retreat was just tell us a cool construction story. And like Bruszer off
dropped that
top,
one out.
Yeah. I was like, whoever's following him, sorry to hear that.
Every once in a while that happens.
Clouds in your floor.
Yeah.
It was a pretty amazing day.
Well, what do we miss? We missed something. What we missed, Steve?
Well, I bragged on Teresa and I bragged on our boys. There's a lot of people, we were lucky to have our Spring Valley 50th anniversary party last February. It's kind of a big reunion of people. I think back, one thing I do well is keep in contact with friends, people. And I wish one day, and hopefully it's in heaven, that I can see people that I worked with before that were important to me and just say, hey man, you were important to me. When I first started at Spall Glass, again, 85, our the division manager, division vice president, his name was John Heim. John Heim was a mechanical background, but he was general contractor. And in his office, he had a kind of like a narrow placard thing, and it had every business card that he ever had in his whole career. And I said, man, that is really, really cool. So I kept all my business cards from every position I've had, and I put them on I actually bought a frame, painted it black, and I put all my business cards starting at the bottom all the way up to the top to where I'm at right now. And I changed it because I wrote believer, the very top thing. And I think that's really what it all is about. It's about believing, about being a Christian, having a higher purpose. And if I can see John Heim one day and say, man, that meant a lot to me that you did that, because it gave me the idea. And I've got it's displayed in my office now. So hopefully somebody else can sit there and say, this is really what it's about. All these levels, this ladder of going from assistant project manager to VP to this, that, and the other, none of that's important. What's important is what your ultimate goal is, and that's to believe and to have a higher purpose in life. But there's mentors that you would love to thank. John Drozer and Jerry Thurman and Cecil Windsor from Spallglass, and Spring Valley is Mike Gray and Jimmy and Danny and Kenan and Brent, who are my partners now, Richard Kavnar. Spiritual mentors, two guys that Teresa invited to we moved from Hearst to Sunnyvale, started going to a church, Mimosa Lane Baptist Church, and Marvin, Daniel, and Terry Henderson, Teresa invited them to our house because she thought I needed them, that I needed them in my spiritual. So they were my spiritual mentors probably for 5 years, and got me to where I really got out of dreading going to church until really loving going to church. And I see Marvin and Terry every once in a while, but to have that big reunion of your life one day is really exciting to me.
Yeah.
People that have been important to me, that, and friends also. I do a really good job of keeping in contact with friends, but it's so cool when you get together with those people and just say, we got this in common, and we're always going to have it. Nobody's going to take it away. So there's a lot of people to be thankful for, is my point. And hopefully one day somebody's going to think that about me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the ultimate goal is how am I treating others? And it's difficult because, like we talked earlier, I have compassion for sick people in bad situations. I have no compassion for stupid people or people doing stupid things. And that's probably my place where I need to work on myself better, is having more compassion, also having patience. Jim Archer told me, what you lack is patience, and I work hard on it. And at 60, I'm still not there. Maybe I'll never get there, but I'm a lot better than I was when I was 59.
Yeah.
So I try to make improvement somehow, somewhere.
It's a virtue. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's a tough one, especially when you're driven, you have thoughts, you've got deadlines, you've got people calling, hey, where's this? What's going on? And you're sitting there. It's very difficult to have patience. And I think most drivers, most leaders have an issue with that. There are very good leaders that are just blowing sunshine all the time.
Yeah.
And I respect that. And I wish I could be more like that. And very rarely do I get an opportunity like this to sit there and really tell what's on my heart. When I do, I love it. When we go through reviews, employee reviews, I love talking about the company and the vision. I just don't have that opportunity very much. And to talk about the wins, wins in construction are very few and far between. And you need to celebrate them.
Oh, yeah.
And the losses we tend to focus on, and we probably don't need to focus on those as much. We need to just move on and figure out how to get better. I've got, like I said, I got a couple of projects and clients that I just didn't handle things the right way, and I wish I would have done it differently, but you can't live on that. You got to move on, right?
Yeah, you learn what you learned,
right,
and you move along.
Right.
There's no lingering doesn't fix anything. Lingering doesn't fix it. Man, I was going to go back to that mentor thought you're having, because as you were saying all those names, the thought I was having is how fortunate you are to have all those names to say.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has one person, let alone 2 or 10 or 20 or 50 or, you're super fortunate to have all those people whose names come to straight to the tip of your tongue when you think about people that you're thankful for in your life, and you look forward to seeing them again and telling them that you're thankful.
Well, and there's, the other thing is there's people that you've met that don't do it the way you think it should be done. And you learn as much from those people as you do the good people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's really important also is, I won't say those names, but I've got a list of names there too.
Yeah, right.
That say, they gave me an opportunity and it was good. Well, there's a lot I learned, but that's not how I want to do it. So you learn how not to do it. And that's, everybody's different. Everybody has different personalities and how they handle things. So you can learn as much from the way you don't want to do things.
Agree with that.
I haven't missed home in a long time because I consider DFW home until today.
Yeah.
Probably the last time, the first Blackhawks Stanley Cup championship on their string of 3.
Yeah.
I was at the parade. watching it out here, and I'm like, man, I miss home. You just took me back there.
Well,
for the
when
first
I'm
time in a long time.
when my first I moved there in '09. I think they won the cup that June. They had the parade, and it ended right there at Michigan Wacker Drive, which is where my office was. So they had the Stanley Cup right down there below where we were at. So our floor, this is so wild. My office in downtown Chicago looked at the Tribune building, the Wrigley building, and the Trump Tower, and the river was right below us. And I'll never forget this forever. The Ryder Cup, I think it was Davis Love. I can't remember who the captain was. The Ryder Cup was coming someplace, and they had a Trump Tower. On Trump Tower, they have a deck like at the 30th floor of Trump Tower, and they had a platform built up, and they had a big reception for the Ryder Cup, a promotion. And in the river, they had a barge, and they had a floating green and a pin in it. And the captains were hit, I don't know, pitching wedges or something off the Trump Tower onto the barge. And we're sitting there watching this like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. And you're sitting there like, this isn't something you can see in Dallas.
No.
This is something that is a Chicago specific thing. And then, a windstorm comes up and you see furniture this was a different day, but we're also watching, wind was blowing like crazy in Chicago, and all the furniture on the Trump Tower was blowing off the Trump Tower into the river. And you're sitting there like, somebody's going to get killed.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it, and you're like, again, something I'm never going to see again. Just crazy stuff.
Were they putting dots on the barge?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's just nuts.
That is nuts.
I'm sure they had a rangefinder or something like that, but yeah, it was just experiences like that is something that, you'll live forever. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to go back to. Now my family's all moved to Indiana, so they're in St. John, Indiana now. So again, just like neighborhoods in Chicago, they turn. So it got to be a little rough. So they moved, and we love going back to St. John and visiting family there, and trying to hook up with my buddies and get together for a cocktail or two.
Just thinking about all the old times.
Yeah, and a lot of it's life. Some of them are, one's got cancer and the other one's just recovering. So now it gets to be real life. It's not just, let's do a beer bong and move on.
Right.
It's like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Well, just reaching out to me helps. So those are the things you just need to remember to take time. It's all it is time and effort. And friendship takes a lot of time and effort to keep it. So,
relationships
yeah.
of all sorts take a lot of time.
Or with clients, whatever. But really, it really is a friendship driven life for me. I like that part about the most. My friends are my closest people.
Yeah. Well, you say, I'm going to make a segue, but you say something there that's important about how in these moments, it's like the culmination of all that time that you spent with them that you can really know who they are and really have an opportunity to lean in and say, how can I help or whatever. So I'll use that as a pivot point to get to like a sort of our closing nugget, right? Which is, our one big thing, as we say, all of your life's experiences and places you've been and people you've met and mentors you've had and things you've screwed up and all that. Like, what's the big thing? What's a big nugget for someone to take away from all of the travels and stuff?
Well, I think I wrote down one of my favorite verses from 1 Corinthians 15:33 is bad company corrupts good judgment. And, again, being an owner of a construction company, you want to have good people. And if you don't, they can be a cancer to your organization. And I think living through life, we preach to our sons, same thing. Even a good person can get screwed up by bad character. And we've seen it, you see it when, kids in affluent families and they get hooked up with the wrong people or become whatever drugs or whatever it is, alcohol, lying, stealing. That stuff is just, you got to be very careful in today's age about, and that is where my bride is very good at. She does not give, she's convicted to her values. And if there's something not right, she sniffs it out. She has an unbelievable natural ability to know this situation's not right or something's going on and it's not good. And we react. You got to react to stuff like that.
Mom radar is a thing, man. Mom, like Ashley says, I forget exactly what it is, but something about mom. Oh no, she talks about people in the neighborhood knowing what's going on. She calls it the momfia. That's what that shit. But yeah, mom radars are real things.
So I'm going to tell one more story. So when we moved to Chicago to St. John, Indiana, it was cool because the first 3 months, I was living with my mom and dad because we hadn't found a house yet. And Teresa and the boys finished. So this was like December, and Teresa and the boys were still finishing out. We decided to have them finish. So we lived apart for 6 months, and I'd go back and forth. So we found a beautiful house in the neighborhood, right about a mile from my mom and dad. And it was a short sale, and I'm embarrassed. It was like a 7,500 square foot house, finished out basement, first floor, and then it had another bathroom, bedroom, living area up top. And it was a short sale for like $600,000. And it was in a beautiful neighborhood. Well, the more we got into it, it ended up, we still to this day believe it was the Polish mafia there was 5 guys that lived there, and their names were all Polish. And we still to this day think there was something going on in that house that was not right. It was, the had a theater, and it was, 7 flat screen TVs all over, and foosball tables, billiards, bar. And I'm like, something's not right here. But to this day, we think the house is haunted by the Polish mafia.
Punchline of the episode: Steve was in the Polish mafia.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that we're gonna? No,
I don't know what the title is. Maybe Sketching Through Life with Good Character or something like that. Sketching Through Life. That's what it is. I don't know. It's
I don't know why we wouldn't do that now, right? Whether it makes sense or not.
I don't know. I'm sure there's stories of Texas people about their childhoods, but sketching through the side streets of the city of Chicago is pretty strong.
You guys, use guys.
Use guys.
2 Utes.
Yeah, to both of you, I enjoyed it.